Real quick. In this video, I was kind of feeling under the weather. I had a pretty bad cold, but I'm back to my normal self. But if I seem a little groggy in this video, that's pretty much why. So,
Hello, welcome back to the new and improved Jane Z podcast. Now you can see our grizzled, nice chins. Same with
and
Jace.
my dimples, you can see them right there, huh?
Yeah, you can see Jace's dimples and glorious HD.
Well,
So,
720p, but
720p.
so a little less than HD. But you know what? We're working on it.
All right, Jace, what are we talking about today?
Well, I am glad that you asked. We have a Marvel movie tier list. I know Zeth's seen all the movies here, but we're going to be ranking every single MCU movie. So he'll be able to fill in for the ones I haven't. But I've seen, most of them. So should be a good time.
Yeah. All right, let's get started. Uh, the first Marvel movie, Iron Man.
Iron Man. Um, I think that this movie deserves no place other than S tier. It made the
I
MCU what it was, and if this movie was garbage or even just mediocre, we probably wouldn't have an MCU. But this movie was great.
I couldn't agree more. From the character development to the CGI to the physical effects, everything about this movie is an S tier movie.
It was a great villain. It didn't start out too big or anything. It left room for it to grow. He's just a normal guy in a suit too. And I thought he just told a really good, complete story, and it just looked great, even by today's standards. I think it holds up and is on par even with modern Iron Man adaptations.
hmm the next one, Incredible Hulk. Uh, where do you
The
think
inc-
this one goes?
it is kind of hard to say. I really don't remember this one that well. I don't know if that's because I didn't care for it or if it's because I just don't remember it for whatever reason. But I'll leave this one more towards your. What do you think about the movie?
Hmm. I don't hate this one. I actually have a lot of love for it compared to a lot of other people. I think the villain is really great, Abomination, played by a very, very great actor. I believe the story has some interesting things that are in it. For instance, when they talk about him transforming into the Hulk, it's an accident, and they always are counting down the days from the last time he had one of them.
Hmm.
Other than that, I really can't say there's a whole lot to the story that we haven't seen with previous Hulk adaptations when it comes to the TV show or even the '05 movie. So I think it's still good, but I think it ranks more in like the C tier, maybe mid D tier.
I think if we're doing D, E, and F on this one, I think I might have to put it in D tier just because it feels more like an odd one out when compared to the other Marvel movies, Like it just doesn't really feel like a Marvel movie, when compared to the rest of them, to me at least. And I
Mm,
totally am happy with how they use Hulk in the rest of the MCU entries as kind of like a side character because he isn't all that like interesting in the sense that he just gets mad and he turns dumb. So it's kind of
mm.
hard to do stuff, but I'm glad that he at least got one movie.
Okay, so we're in agreement there a little bit. The second Iron Man movie, Iron Man 2.
I don't think the second Iron Man is as good as the first one, but I still think it's a pretty decent movie, albeit um, nothing super high ranking. I thought it was a more than adequate sequel though.
Yeah, I have to agree with you. I would think maybe C plus, B minus. The villain I absolutely love, Whiplash.
He is cool.
You have Nick Fury in a bigger supportive role. You have Black Widows showing up. A lot of funny moments actually with Robert Downey Jr. that I really like. But yeah, I would have to agree with you. C tier, maybe B tier.
C tier sounds good. I think we should reserve B tier for some other ones.
Okay.
Which one came next?
We have the first Thor,
Hmm. I barely
which
remember this movie.
I have to agree with you. I know it's not awful. I know it's not. A lot of people give the first and the second Thor a lot of flack, and
I think it's deserved. I mean,
I don't think so because they were playing a little bit with like mythologies and stuff, so I think it was deserving of a little serious tone. I think just later on when you had the Avengers and Thor kind of turned into a punching bag, that's when it kind of could turn funny. Um, I would have to say D
I,
tier,
I'm
C tier,
thinking D D tier.
D tier. Okay.
It just wasn't all that, memorable, and the other movies I think that came out around the time the other Marvel movies just kind of were quite a bit better in my
Hmm.
opinion.
All right, we have Captain America: The First Avenger. This, I will argue to death, is an A tier movie. I do not care what you say.
I liked it. I remember when it first came out. It's going to be kind of a theme with me. I have not seen a lot of these movies since they first came out, especially the older
Uh,
ones. So
I know
I
I'm the person that marathons them all anytime a big Avengers comes out or the next big Marvel film.
totally, but I do kind of remember the plot. I remember it being, pretty good. Just a pretty good movie.
I would have to say it's an A tier film. Um, Even if you disagree with that, I love just how much respect they had for the original comic book line when it came to the World War origin story. You have Bucky, where in the original comics he was a kid, and I love how in the adaptation of the movie it is a adult man that is his best friend. I like that a lot more than Bucky being more of a Robin-esque hero.
Yeah, that's why I totally agree. I'm not a big fan of the kid type ones. They always seem a little out of place in their own movies. So I'm glad they made him an adult, and I think it set a pretty good first step for Captain America. I'm
I would have to
debating between
argue
A
A
and
tier.
B.
I have to argue A tier because there's so many great things about this movie, like the ending, where it ends on a happy and dour note. You have Peggy Carter, where she's finally going to get the dance with Steve, and then it ends up being he crashes the plane, like in the comics a little bit. Or
Yeah, I mean I remember liking the
no,
movie. I thought it was pretty good, so I might have to watch that one again actually. But
yeah, the music is what makes it for me too. The music is really really good in that movie. I would have to argue A tier.
I'll put it in A tier.
All right. All right, the next film, the first Avengers.
Really, that
This
soon?
this is an S tier, easy.
I yeah, it was unprecedented.
Really? Okay, well, where would you put it then?
No, I'm putting in S tier. It
I
deserves
just
it.
I remember this movie was like the biggest deal when it came out, and everybody thought it would flop. Actually, that was the word on the street. Just it kind of
What?
looked
Who thought it
hope.
would?
Well, I mean, my dad did at least. I mean, it looked kind of hokey in the trailers and stuff. As far as I remember, it was just like a bunch of clips of them joking around. It wasn't like the big action parts
Yeah,
of the film. And my dad and me, it was such a good memory of just we went to the theater at midnight, opening day. You got to talk to comic book fans and cosplayers, and everybody's so excited, and everybody was cheering and clapping nearly every part of the movie. It was just such an amazing feeling to watch that movie.
I totally agree. Me and Dad got tickets. We went with a group of guys. We went they had like a night before release. This was like they had the release day, but they did like one showing the night before, so you had to get special tickets for it. But we got them way
Mm,
in ahead of time, and I remember just I think I went to my grandpa's afterwards, but that was a great memory, and it's probably one of my most remembered Marvel movies. So I think S tier is great. They did what Justice League, or at least at its first showing, couldn't do 10 years later with all this time and reference. So,
yeah.
and they got
Plus,
it
we
right
have the
first
first
try.
appearance of Thanos. I mean, that was just like for a comic book fan that knew about the Infinity Gauntlet comics line. That was just mind-boggling that they could be teasing this, and we all thought it was going to be for Avengers 2 at the time.
I knew that it was Thanos. I didn't read any of the comics, but I watched a lot of like Marvel shows, the cheap animated ones. They made a ton of those. I used to watch them all the time as a kid. So I knew of Thanos, but it's really kind of cool just how early he shows up and compared
Hmm.
to everybody else. Because when did this movie come out? I mean, this
I believe 2012, 2011.
2011, 2012, and they didn't even bring him up again until, you know, Infinity War.
Yeah.
So they've been kind of showing well planned out this entire series is.
Well, actually, no. He shows up again in Guardians of the Galaxy, the first one.
That's true. That's true. That's true. I have not seen
And
that one in
then
a minute
with the
either. But
once Avengers happened, that's when they started to go through the Infinity Stones again,
you're
little
right.
by
You're right.
little.
It was in that, wasn't it? All right. That's awesome. Actually, I totally forgot.
Yeah. All right. The next one is Iron Man 3.
I saw this one early too. I don't like it. I liked it. Hmm.
I would have to say B tier or A tier.
We
I
got to
I
put it in
absolutely
B.
loved this one. B.
It's
Okay,
better
go
than
ahead.
Iron Man 2, and it's certainly better than Thor. I
I
don't think
loved
it's
it.
as good as Captain America, so I think B fits.
I loved it just as much as Captain America because just the amount of humor that's in it, the amount of action that's in it, from the villains. I know a lot of people did not like the Mandarin switch. A lot of people absolutely hated it until they did it properly with Shang-Chi. But I loved it. I loved the little flip in your head. Trevor Slater in there, giving his humor and stuff. You had Rhodes as Iron Patriot at the time. I loved everything with it.
Okay. Yeah, I still can't put it higher than B, and I'm still considering
Okay.
moving Captain America down too, just because
Don't you touch
I'm
Captain
not gonna
America.
touch it, but I do think it's a bit of a nostalgia goggles thing because I think I would have remembered it more. Because Red
For
Skull just
me,
wasn't that compelling a villain to me, if I remember correctly.
for me, I just those were my favorite when I was whenever I'm rewatching certain Marvel films. Uh, Captain America 1, 2, 3, Iron Man 3, Iron Man 1. Those are a lot of them that I rewatch.
Okay, yeah, in that case, I trust your judgment.
Yeah. But B tier's okay.
B
Okay.
tier's good.
So the next one, Thor: The Dark World. Um, you know, I don't hate this film as much as everybody else. Everybody else has bashed this movie to
I didn't like
eternity.
it. It's worse than the first one, so it goes in E. Compared to
You
the rest
know,
of them, compared to the rest of them,
I have to disagree. I actually like the story a little bit and some of the twists and turns. I
was
don't
it
think
better
it's
than
great.
Hulk? Was it better than Thor?
That's the one I honestly cannot like draw upon. There's only like certain scenes that I can really remember. I can't remember a whole lot. I
Me
just
too,
remember
because the
the
movie was dumb.
I just remember the end fight was kind of good.
That's not
And
enough to move it out of E tier.
and then you had a funny joke where like Thor hangs his hammer on like a coat hanger. No, okay. E tier. Okay.
I think
I
E tier.
really I really can't argue with that. I mean, as much as I don't hate the film, I mean,
It's probably not a bad movie, but
I,
compared to all these other ones, it's just not the same.
yeah, I think it's made well. I mean, you got great graphics, you got great acting. I mean, the story is serviceable and it's okay.
I want to watch a lot of these again, but that's like one that I'm like, I could probably never watch that again, and I'd probably be just fine, really.
A lot of people forget that's the storyline with the Red Infinity Stone.
Yeah,
That's
I
where the
don't even
first Infinity
remember.
Stone. Yeah. Okay. Next one. Captain America: The Winter Soldier.
Bada bing, bada boom. Need I say more?
The Yep, S tier, easy.
That's
No
such a good
questions
movie.
asked. No questions asked. No
It's got to
questions
be one of
asked.
my favorites. If not, it's really got to be up there.
It's probably
It's probably
I
the best written one.
probably top three easily. I
I,
couldn't
I
say for sure, but
I think
top
the
three
story is
easy.
like number one story so far.
The story, the action, the drama, the
It's
beginning, the
It's not as big
espionage.
as, Civil War or Infinity War or anything, but it was just the right amount of letting other people in, and just a beautiful movie.
Yeah, for people that have never seen it before, just know that you can get crazy with a knife fight, and it's awesome in this movie. This probably my favorite knife fight out of any action movie, period. The next one, Guardians of the Galaxy 1. A tier easy. What? No.
Hmm.
Oh, Jace.
I
Ooh,
my only
you're
thing
testing
is
me.
I like the second one more. I just do.
Really?
I do. I really
Okay.
like the second movie. And I think the second movie is not S tier but A tier.
Okay. I have to disagree with this one. I agree. Second movie is good, but the first movie was such a surprise
I
because
No one expected it to be good.
I expected this to be the dumbest movie ever. Like, usually I was always excited for the Marvel movie trailers. When I saw this, I just thought it looked weird and hokey.
I'll put it an A, but I also might put second one A. I'll see what you
That's
have to
fine.
say about it when it comes up, but
But the
I
amount
can
of
see where you're coming
humor,
from. It was
the
one of
amount of humor,
the funniest one up until that point. No, hands down.
it was probably the funniest movie I'd seen in a long, long time. Long, long time.
Yeah. Yeah, it was a
Just
very good movie.
just one that would make you belly laugh throughout the whole thing. Just such a good movie.
That was
James
the
Gunn
one
is
movie
such a good.
where I didn't know them beforehand. Like I don't think a lot of people did. I knew almost every Marvel character ever, but I never really looked into Guardians of the Galaxy because I'm sure they were a lot newer comic series and
I no, they're older, but it's like Avengers, where you know how Avengers the teams have always changed.
yeah.
Well, this Guardians of the Galaxy, it's like the third team or the second team, I think.
Hmm.
And some of the characters are a little flipped around. Like Yandu was originally a Guardians. We have the first issue, um,
Huh.
but I didn't know a whole lot about them. I know I read a few comics of them, but they were a character group I almost completely skipped over. Like I knew Rocket and Groot and Star Lord, but like Drax and Gamora, I was kind of like, I don't know who they are.
I think that I think I actually agree a little more with your A tier because they took an IP that nobody's heard of for the most part, except for like the more diehard. Because I knew so much about about Marvel stuff, and I just never heard of them. It never came up in any of the shows as a kid, and they were able to take that and turn it into one of the best Marvel movies they had. One of the funniest. They were able to make them different
Mm-hmm.
with between
Yeah,
the
and
music and the jokes. It just was a great change of pace.
the soundtrack is actually what got me into music, believe it or not.
I believe it. It's really good.
Yeah, I just with the soundtrack and the orchestral soundtrack together, that's what really got me into, going back and listening to movie soundtracks and then going back and listening to, you know, classic rock and music from the 70s and the 60s. It just really 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 got me into music.
Yeah, it'll do that to you. It's a great soundtrack and it totally made it feel different.
Hmm. Next up, Avengers Age of Ultron.
I think this one gets too much hate.
It does.
I'm
I
not saying
think
I think it's B tier.
uh,
I
mm,
I liked it as much as Iron Man 3. Probably not as much as Guardians though.
I would have to argue against that and put it for A tier on mine at least, because I think a lot of people forget there's some story elements I don't agree with, like killing off Quicksilver, yes.
Yeah,
But
that always felt cheap.
but I think a lot of people just forget, like, this is the movie that introduced Vision, Scarlet Witch. Uh, you have Ultron in it that is done phenomenally.
It
I
was
I
good, but I can't justify putting it in A tier. We have to have some semblance of
mm,
balance here. I think it's right at home. It wasn't better than Guardians, but it was better than Iron Man 2.
okay. I don't agree with that. I
I know what you're
really can't.
saying.
I really can't. I really believe it wholeheartedly belongs on A, but no, it's all right. It's all right. Next up is Ant Man.
I
A
really
tier.
like the first Ant-Man. A
A
tier, if
tier
not.
for me.
I don't think it's quite S, but it was very similar to Guardians and how funny it was and clever.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Made
just a really
me
good movie. It was
Never
a lot
made
of
me
fun.
look at a Baskin Robbins again the same.
Yeah, I like that it had that kind of style of humor. A
Yeah.
lot more casual. It was just a fun movie to watch. That's probably one of the more fun ones, along with Guardians.
Yeah. Just the amount of fanfare that went into it. Like when you finally see the Wasp and like how Michael Douglas was originally the Ant-Man and stuff,
Mm-hmm.
like that was just phenomenal to see. Like it blew me away. Like I was like, "Oh, the Wasp finally!" And then at the end, once they tease like the newer version of the Wasp, you know, is cool.
Yeah, yeah, it was good.
All right, Captain America: Civil War.
I
S
remember seeing
tier.
this in theaters too.
S tier easily. There's
Yeah, you're right.
no question.
You're right.
This introduced Spider-Man, Black Panther. You have the excellent airport fight scene. You have Spider-Man introduced with Tom Holland. You have Chadwick Boseman's Black Panther that were all done phenomenally. You have the end fight, which is one of the coolest close combat fights that Marvel has ever done, period.
Yeah,
There's
I
just
remember
so
this
much
movie
good
being
stuff.
very good.
Yeah.
I think
S
it belongs
tier
right next to
easily.
Winter Soldier. So,
Yeah. In my opinion, Winter Soldier still had, I think, the better story, but I
no, it
think
did.
Civil.
But the scale, like it wasn't. It
Yeah,
was like
this. Yeah,
it
it
was like
was like a.
Infinity War before Infinity War with like the surprise appearances.
I
It
also felt
really
like it
made it
was an
big.
apology for Age of Ultron for some, like those who didn't like Age of Ultron for that much as others did. I felt like it was more of an apology for them.
I
Like
think it's a better
here's.
Avengers movie than Avengers: Age of Ultron.
Yeah, yeah.
Even as even if they called it Avengers: Civil War, it would have. I wouldn't have said anything.
Hmm.
It really isn't as Captain America centric, if I remember correctly, as you might have thought from a movie called Captain America.
Yeah. I still think it's pretty centered on Captain America, but I do get what you're saying.
Not
All
complaining
right.
though. Great movie.
All right. The next one, Doctor Strange.
I never saw this one. This one's all the way up to you.
Um, B tier.
B?
Yes,
Okay.
it was so cool to see the character that uh, you know, I read when I was 12 and 13, in the original comic book line. I would rent those big essential volumes and I would read hundreds of those comic books.
Hmm.
And Doctor Strange was the one I was so excited for because I couldn't believe they were doing it. It just seemed like one of those characters that was kind of an oddball, and I always thought they would never touch him. So when they announced the movie, and the movie is really really good, it's a little serious, but I
Yeah.
think it is done with the love and respect that uh, was really done for Doctor Strange. I really appreciated it. Is it better than Captain America in my opinion? And
Mm,
the ending is a little, um, I wouldn't say bad, but it's not as strong as the other one's endings.
okay.
All right, let's see what is next. We have after Doctor Strange, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2.
I think this one goes in A tier right next to the first Guardians. I like this movie a little more, but I can understand why people think it's the weaker one.
Really?
But
People think it's weak?
they think it's weaker than the first one, but I don't agree. If I had to pick one to watch at any given moment, I'll always pick the second one. I think
I
it's a little bit funnier. I like the soundtrack even more,
Yeah.
and I think it's more fun even than that first one.
Yeah, the first one I still like a little more just because of the memories and how much of a surprise it was, and the jokes I think are still really great. But the second one just took everything of that. They made it more colorful. They made it more like the villain in the first movie,
He was kind of forgettable, just
not
very similar.
good.
He's kind of the villain was on par to the first Thor, but at
Like
least the
the
rest
other
of the
movie.
characters were
Yeah.
funny, unlike Thor. So
Yeah, yeah, the second movie had probably top three Marvel villain for me.
Yep.
Um, just done really, really
Well,
well.
I wouldn't say top three, but I thought he was really good still.
Yeah,
I like I said, it's a really good movie.
I just think the visuals were super good. Like they just let James Gunn go all out with like the colors and the strangeness and the weird like just everything.
The planet was very colorful and it's got a fun vibe to it. That's all I can say. I just really thought it was funny and just just a great movie. One of my
Yeah,
favorites.
the humor for me, my favorite part is just when he brings a toe. Groot brings a toe to the prisoner. That caught everybody off guard in the theater and could not stop laughing. Just I didn't
Oh
even
yeah.
hear what it was, like what the other jokes were in between that.
No,
Uh,
and Baby Groot in general was just so funny.
yes,
That was before Baby Yoda. That was before everybody else. This was like the OG cute little thing, and it was very fun at the time.
yeah, probably it also holds one of my favorite Marvel scenes of all time.
Which
The
one?
part it's when Yandu gets his new fin, and it's not as big as me and my father wanted it to be, but when there's one shot in particular when they're zipping through and they're killing all the Ravagers that killed all the other men. There's one shot in particular where it shows the hallway and it goes
It's like a
zing.
maze.
No, no,
Oh.
no. There's that shot's really cool too when it pans up and it's like all the
Mm-hmm.
mate. But my favorite shot of all time, it was just done so stinking well. The arrow flies by and it knocks out like two or three lights. It goes ding, 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 and the whole room goes dark, and you just see like the little red thing zipping by.
I
It's
remember that.
favorite shot in the whole film.
Yeah, I love this movie.
Yeah, A tier easy. All right, Spider-Man: Homecoming.
What can I say? It's a good movie.
This one you and me actually saw together, I believe.
Hmm. I don't
I
think so, but I think it was around the time.
yeah, um, I'd have to
It's
say
it's
B.
possible. Yeah. Yeah, I'll
I
put it at B.
I loved it to death. Um, I think Michael Keaton's Vulture was absolutely amazing in it. It's
He was
Michael
kind of
Keaton.
to me, I liked the twist.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't see it coming. That was a decent twist. But as general,
Nobody saw that coming.
yeah, it Vulture's not my favorite like supervillain in general, but I think they did about as good as they could with the character cuz he's kind of weird normally. So I'm glad they
Yeah,
went the mechanical route.
I just loved that like the movie was funny, and it wasn't like the cringy funny of the Sam Raimi trilogy, and it wasn't super darn serious like the Andrew Garfield
Yeah.
duology. It was
We've
Peter
talked at
Parker.
length about those and this is so
Yeah,
much more of a teenager feel. Tom
yeah.
Holland will forever look 17, so he fit right in as Spider-Man there.
Unlike himself as Nathan Drake.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, Thor Ragnarok,
I like this
which
movie. It was
you
very
get
good.
to see Hulk's butt.
Yeah. That means S tier, right?
Yes, S tier. Hulk's butt, S tier.
Is it? It's either S tier or A tier.
I would have to say A tier. I
A
think
tier. I
the
think
thing that
people overhype it a bit, but it was still a very, very good change of pace.
I think the humor is the best thing about it. That in the cinematography and the colors, you have a lot of the great characters like Korg. Korg is just absolutely hilarious. But I think some of the action wasn't as great. I think they
My
showed a little too much in the trailer for me.
my my biggest gripe with it is that I really like the animated movie Planet Hulk, which is what this is kind of based on.
Mm-hmm.
Have you seen that?
Yeah, there's a comic line too.
Yeah, it's I was like I always just really liked that movie. I thought it was compelling and it finally put Hulk into something that he's a little more natural in. And I wish I kind of wish that could have been its own MCU movie. I feel
Mm-hmm.
like you have to like understand that context a bit.
That makes sense.
And I just really really like that story, and they just didn't do it the way I would have done it. But in general, it is a really fun, colorful
Yeah,
movie.
they
That's just
touched
my
on
only
it a little
gripe with
bit.
it. Yeah,
Okay.
I just thought it was such a good story. They kind of like moved past it. Like it was more of a background thing to just facilitate Thor, but it's okay. It's okay. I still have my animated Planet Hulk movie.
That makes sense. All right, Black Panther.
I do not like this one a lot.
You know, as much as we'll probably get crap about it, I think C tier.
I agree. I really I've tried.
I
It took me for so many tries to finally finish it. I like the one scene where they're by the waterfall fighting, and the rest of it's all pretty forgettable. I really didn't care that much for it. Something
I
about it.
loved the whole movie. The only thing that took me out of it was that end fight. That end fight has the worst CGI of all time because it's two black characters in the
Yeah,
Black Panther suit. So they're super dark characters, and then it's in a super dark environment.
tunnel. Yeah, it wasn't a
It
great
is
ending fight.
so awful. Other than that, if that fight was not that bad, I would have put it easily B tier or A tier. I
I
think the
just di-
sto-
I
I
just
thought
didn't.
the story was so strong, but that fight just it always, always, always takes me out of the movie.
I thought it was a compelling story. Well, I thought it was a well written story. I just didn't like the story itself. It has nothing to do with anything, but it's just I just didn't really get into it. I don't know why. There's a couple of these on this list that are just kind of like that to me.
That's okay. Like I said, I liked the story. I liked everything about it. Just that end fight is really what puts it down for me. All
Yeah, I
right,
get you.
we come to the big boy, Infinity War.
Is Captain Marvel not first?
Nope, Captain Marvel was after
Oh,
Infinity War.
okay. Infinity War, not okay. I think that goes in S tier.
S tier easy.
That's probably the best Marvel movie.
Really? That's your favorite?
It's probably my. I don't know if it's my favorite, but I think it's the best one.
I think, as in terms of action, I was never more surprised at a movie.
I thought they balanced all the different storylines. They did it with care. That ending, if I was able to see it before I got spoiled, that was a great ending. I
Hmm.
mean, it's like so iconic, and I mean,
It
it
was
just
so hard for me because in the comic book line, that's what happens. And Avengers Part 2 was already announced.
yeah,
So
yeah.
it, when you read the comic book line, immediately when Thanos gets the Infinity Gauntlet, snaps his fingers, and half the universe is wiped out. So I'm waiting. So I
They
originally
waited
thought,
though. That's the
yeah,
thing.
they
They
waited
they
till the end.
they played that out. Thor came in, and you thought for sure Thanos
Yeah,
was. No one's
I
because it every other time when that happens in a movie, you defeated him, but you should have gone for the head and then snap. That was so
yeah
nothing
I
has quite that same like memory in my mind.
I did love the ending because I knew it was coming because like I didn't know if it was going to happen right in the beginning, like Thanos just has the stones and the rest of it is just they figure out what's happening, or if it was going to happen at the end, and that's what part 2 is about. But that
Right.
ending was so cool for to go to a theater and just hear the gasps in the audience, like and then all of a sudden it just rolls the credits. Captain America's like, now what? And then it just rolls the credits.
It
Everybody
was
was like, what?
But that's not to say that the rest of the movie isn't just so well balanced. All the different side stories are important, and I feel like they're fully fleshed out. And you just kind of got this impending sense of doom, and
Mm-hmm.
it all comes together in Wakanda. I
Yeah,
think this one is probably the best it ever gets. So,
another one of my favorite shots is in this movie when the Wakanda battle starts and everybody's running
yeah.
towards the threat. and you just have Black Panther and Steve Rogers just take off,
Just booking
charging
it.
past everybody.
He was
I was
running.
pumped. I was pumped during that. I was like, yeah, let's do it.
That was sick. That was so sick. I love this movie so much.
Yeah. Which comes to the next one, Ant-Man and the Wasp.
I think this movie gets a little too much hate,
Yep.
but I still admit that it's not like my favorite one. I don't think it's as bad as Thor Dark World, but I'd be pretty
C
content
tier.
putting it here.
Really?
Yeah, you're right. Well,
I think it's C tier. I don't think the humor is as great as the first movie.
no, but it still has its moments. I still thought it
Yeah.
was pretty funny. The villain was kind of weak, and there wasn't that much to it, but
I
it
love
was a
the
it was a
action.
it was a perfectly good movie. I like the car chase scenes. I like the shrinking things. It was kind of fun.
I think
Just
the
an
thing
overall
that
fine movie.
I think the thing that really took it away from a lot of people was this was right after Infinity War. So people are expecting the stakes to be bigger and bigger and bigger. And this was a small, like the first Ant-Man movie was just a small heist movie, kind of. And that's what I was kind of expecting with this one, just a smaller scaled movie. And that's what it was. And I was pretty satisfied with it. A lot of people were probably expecting an
I was
Infinity War
satisfied.
level.
It wasn't as good as the first one, but it wasn't that bad either, I feel.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm happy putting in C.
Yeah, me too. All right. Captain Marvel.
I never saw this movie, never felt the need.
Dude, it's actually really good. A lot of people gave it way, way too much flack.
I
They
believe
thought
you, but I saw the final fight, and I can see how everybody would describe it as underwhelming.
it was, but like I said, it was after Infinity War, so everybody's expecting the next big movie, but people forget they had Samuel Jackson as a main character and he was de-aged to look like himself in Pulp Fiction almost. It
Hmm.
was incredible. You
Yeah,
had
that doesn't
Coulson
necessarily make it
back.
a good movie.
But I still loved it. I still thought the storyline was good. I thought the action was good, and I thought a lot of the humor was really good too. A lot of
I
people just didn't like it because it was, the first female-centered Marvel film. A lot of people had problems with that.
I'll watch it at some point, and then I'll let you know what I think of it. So I guess I'll put it wherever you want me to, but I have my doubts.
I would put it at C tier. I think it was really good. I think a lot of moments, but just um I don't think it's as bad as people say it is. I don't consider it worse than Iron Man 2, nor Black Panther, or the other ones. I think it's more of in between B and C. B minus, C plus.
Man, Seth, I
It's
still don't know about Captain America in that A tier.
I love it way too much, dude. I
All
love it
right, fine.
way too much. Red Skull, come on, man.
I guess I'll watch that one again too.
All right, we come to the biggest boy, Avengers Endgame.
A tier.
Excuse me?
Listen, I get it. I get it. And I don't know why you're so defensive about this movie. It's not as good as Infinity War. It just wasn't. The ending, the last third of it, was amazing.
Yet you
But the
literally
whole
had
time
30
travel
minutes of
thing,
not fighting.
the whole time travel part was just not that engaging. It was cool the first time you saw it because you're in theater, you're watching it, but it really wasn't like all that amazing. I feel it was kind of fun, but I don't know.
I really have to disagree because this was the movie that was made for fans that have been there since the beginning. And I
Ugh.
mean
I'll
the
only put it in S
very
tier because of
beginning.
the ending. Nothing else quite lives up to the ending fight. I thought they did a good job with that, very good job. But
I think a lot of the way they tie characters up, like with Steve, you have him go back to Peggy. That was so satisfying, and then that's where the movie ends. Tony
yeah,
Stark, while a lot of people don't agree with his death,
I agree with it.
I really like him dying in the way that he dies. He
I
dies
thought I
to
thought it was fitting.
yeah, it's I think it's fine. Um
All right, I'll put it in S tier. But
I
just
just
know it's a S minus.
I disagree. I really think it's just as strong as Infinity War
There's
because
no way.
I
There's no
just love the
way.
time travel.
What more than the different adventures going on throughout Infinity War, where nothing was ever boring, and they managed to keep like 6 timelines all interesting without being overly
Yes, because
complicated.
you're constantly wondering like what is going to happen. I mean, I understand time travel was probably the most inevitable thing. But to me, like you see how all the characters are, they're just so they're just written so well in my opinion. You
They
have
are because of the other movies,
you
but they
have
were
a
just so much more true to themselves, and I
you
don't know.
have the part when they go back to New York in 2012. You have the part when they go back to Captain America: The First Avenger, and you have Tony Stark's dad from Iron Man 2. You have one little brief cameo for those that watched Agent Carter. You had Jarvis in there. Just something so minor, but they put it in there because the fans would have noticed. I mean, it's just it was full of so many things that I just loved.
All right, I'll put it in there out of obligation, but it's still just not as good as Infinity War. But I guess
I
it's as good as the rest of the ones we put up there.
I can argue that to death.
How about this? How about this? Yeah. Here. Wait. There we go. This'll do. Er,
Oh yeah. Ah, darn.
There we go. That's a list.
Okay. Spider-Man: Far From Home.
Um,
I
I
loved it.
like this one more than the first one.
Yep, agreed.
I don't. I think it's A tier,
A
not
tier, easy.
not S tier, but A tier.
The only thing I would say about it that I saw coming from a mile away was Mysterio. I know they tried to make it the whole he's the good guy, but anyone that's read a Spider-Man comic or knows Spider-Man knows
I know
Mysterio's a
Mysterio, but
villain.
I think they did what they could. I think for what they had going on there, they tried. And I
Yeah.
think they got best. I still think Mysterio's a fun villain. Like it was
I
kind of
think
interesting. He didn't have powers, but he
yeah,
did his own thing. He was a villain with a purpose.
I just think it was the only problem that was holding it back was that Spider-Man is such a popular character and so are his villains on top of that. I mean, Mysterio is one of his most well-known. So I think it
Yeah.
was just I was just waiting for the inevitability of the villain turning bad.
No, I get
I was
what you're
like, all
saying.
right, when's Mysterio? When are they actually gonna fight?
It did.
Um,
I still will say that I think that the time, I like they couldn't do anything about Mysterio being Mysterio, but I think that the timing of the twist made it better than it otherwise
yeah,
would have been. I think that it was a perfect moment. It was like right after a heart to heart with Peter, he handed over the glasses, but you didn't really think that hard about it. You were more talking about like what they were saying, and then all of a sudden he turns around and he's like, "We got him," and it's like the
yeah.
whole room changes. That was kind of a neat way to do it, but
You also had like a lot of minor people from like the first Iron Man, like the guy who's like Tony Stark built this in a cave with a box of
with a
scraps.
box of scraps,
You had the guy that he was pointing at, like just one little
yeah,
character. I was like, oh,
yeah, they did. I like that aspect of it, and I still think it's a better movie than Homecoming. So
mm-hmm. All right. We then had the big year hiatus of COVID, and in 2021 we had Black Widow.
it wasn't amazing, kind of forgettable. I still liked the dad a bit. Um, I'm
I
not
did
putting it in
not
C.
like this movie.
It wasn't great. It was very forgettable. I think D tier.
I think the problem with it was they tried way too hard to make it a big blockbuster superhero film.
It
I
didn't
think
need to
it
be. I think they if
no.
they leaned more into the spy aspect, we
Yes.
don't really have a stealth movie, and this was the perfect character.
Literally if they just would have done like a Captain America Winter Soldier
That would have been
Um,
perfect.
yeah, they did this whole like she's falling out of the sky and stuff at the end. It's just
Yeah, it doesn't really fit Black Widow.
it just it wasn't that great in my opinion. I'd even put it like with Thor: The Dark World. I
Uh,
would put it
I
at
liked
E.
it more than most. It still had some redeeming moments. I can't think of hardly any redeeming moments for Thor: The Dark World. So
Hmm. All right. Up next is Eternals, which
I never saw it.
okay, it's bad. It's with Thor: The Dark World easily.
All right,
The bad thing is, I think there's a good movie hidden inside it.
so
This
that's
is
why it's
the
not an F.
yeah. It's pretty awful, but it's not as bad as people think it is. I think there is a good movie hidden inside it. It just got lost in the editing. There's a lot of back and forth with a lot of characters going back and forth. There's like 13 characters you're introduced to, and
And
it's
none of it. You don't
time.
care about any of them. I heard.
Yeah, you don't because it's constantly time traveling and you're bouncing in between all of these characters you just met. It's not like an Infinity War situation where you've known these characters, so it's fine. These are brand new characters. The ending fight was underwhelming. Um, a lot of cool elements, but
Hmm.
just not for me.
I heard that sentiment among a lot of people.
Yeah, just very boring, generic, long, and edited poorly. I wouldn't say directed poorly, but edited very poorly. All right, Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings. Have you
I,
seen this one?
I have not seen this one.
This one was good.
Was it good?
Yes,
I'll let you pick it.
I would put this with the B tier. I think it was really really good. I think the ending was really good, and I don't know why a whole lot of people didn't like it. I
Okay. I might
I
give that one a watch and like get back with you on that one too.
yeah, I liked it a lot. I thought it was really good compared to Eternals and Black Widow, which were both pretty bad.
Yeah, that's understandable.
Yeah. All
Looks
right.
like we got No Way Home.
Yep.
I think this
Uh,
movie's it's A or
rewatching it,
B.
it is a B.
It's a B.
It as much as I love it,
It's I love
rewatching
the
it.
that it's not I didn't feel like I think they brushed over some other things. I feel like they kind of cheaped out with Ned, and I don't think the Aunt May's death was all that impactful to me. It just
Oh,
kind of happened.
I loved that, and I loved a lot of it. But just rewatching it a second time, I had a lot of fun with it. But I mean, coming off of the Batman,
Yeah,
I mean, that just blew everything out of the water for me.
it was just a better movie, and I mean,
Yeah.
obviously, compare. I think that's about right. I mean, I love everything that has to do with the multiverse. Spider-Man coming in, I liked the callbacks; those were fun.
Yeah.
But I feel like they sacrificed some parts to make that story work, which is fine by me. I like it for what it is.
Yeah. I like it too. I like that they brought back all the old characters. I mean, this was fan fiction for God's sakes being written. But
Yeah,
I just I don't know what it is and I can't put it into words. Why?
it
Why
just
why
didn't.
why?
It was
I
cool, but it just didn't. It was missing something.
it was
It
honestly
wasn't as
missing
well
one
written.
thing.
I think it was the plot in general. Like it had all the other aspects of like a Civil War or even a Avengers or Infinity War, but
I
it
think
didn't
it would have
have
also
the strong
benefited
plot to back it up and the strong like tension characters or whatever.
I think it would have benefited too from a 3 hour time limit instead
Yeah, it
of
was super long and it still felt
two and
short,
a half. It
or it
just
still
it
felt like it was rushed.
blows by so fast. All right, and that is it. Because so far I have not seen Doctor Strange: and the Multiverse of Madness yet. I do plan on doing
I'm
that.
not gonna put that anywhere. Well, yeah, I'm putting in F, but it's not necessarily F tier. It's just it wouldn't let me put it back. And we can also, I don't know if Morbius is indeed MCU, but
No,
just assume that's an F tier if it is, just to be safe.
no.
So
Morbius is Sony, buddy.
okay, but hey, let me get good frame here. That's our list. I'm fairly happy with it. I personally would change a couple around, but I think in general we kind of had the same thought. In general, I think we kind of made a good list. I don't think we were like too one way or the other. Obviously, we
Yeah,
lean higher, but they're all really good movies. So
yeah. I mean, even like an F, like an E tier list, like Thor: The Dark World, the movie is still really well made, and it's still better than a lot of movies that have come out lately. But
yeah, I mean,
compared to what has come before with Marvel movies, it
I
fell
think
flat.
if Thor: The Dark World was a DC movie, it'd be one of the better DC movies. Is all I'm saying.
Oh, it'd probably be the best.